Ladies and gentlemen, there's a reason some women walk into a room and every man can't take his eyes off her, and it has nothing to do with looks, money, or playing hard to get. It's something deeper, something rare, something that makes a man rethink every woman he's ever met. Today, I'm going to tell you exactly why men go crazy for women who do this. Stay with me, because once you hear it, you'll never look at love the same way again. Let's talk about something that rarely gets said out loud, but every man feels it. There's something magnetic, almost hypnotic about a woman who taps into a particular kind of energy. It's not about looks, curves, clothes, or clever Instagram captions. It's something deeper, something that bypasses the logical brain and goes straight to the gut. You've seen it. That woman who walks into a room and doesn't demand attention, yet somehow everyone notices. The woman who isn't the loudest, not the most physically perfect by society's standards, and yet men can't stop thinking about her. Why? Because she does this. She radiates a sense of self, not a performance, not a projection, just a grounded, unshakable sense of who she is and what she brings to the table. Men go crazy for women who aren't trying to get something from them, but instead invite them into something. Her presence, her world, her energy. That kind of woman doesn't approach love like a job interview. She doesn't try to prove she's worthy. She knows she is. That doesn't mean she's arrogant. It means she isn't waiting for someone else to hand her a sense of value. Confidence isn't a speech. It's how you order coffee, how you say no, how you leave when your boundaries are crossed, how you speak up even when your voice shakes. It's in the decisions you make every day that say, I respect myself enough to choose what's right for me, even if it means weighing walking away from something that looks good but feels wrong. That's what drives men crazy. A woman who doesn't chase. She attracts, not because she plays games, but because she has standards. She knows the difference between interest and effort, between words and consistency, between charm and character. She's not impressed by a guy who texts her 5 times a day if all 5 texts are meaningless. She's impressed by follow-through. She notices who actually listens, who remembers the small details, who shows up when it's inconvenient. And more importantly, she doesn't wait for someone to get it right. She's not in the business of fixing, convincing, or explaining her worth. That's exhausting and she knows it. Instead, she creates space for people who already see it. And when someone doesn't, she doesn't collapse. She doesn't beg. She doesn't wonder what's wrong with her. She remembers what's right with her. You see, men don't fall for a woman because she needs them to. They fall for her when they realize she's already fulfilled, when her happiness is not for sale, when her identity isn't tied to whether or not she's chosen. That's when she becomes irresistible, because she's free. Freedom is attractive. Emotional independence is sexy. It's not cold, it's powerful. It's the woman who can enjoy love without clinging to it, who can give without losing herself, who can walk alongside someone without losing sight of her own path. This kind of woman doesn't just know how to give love, she knows how to receive it. That means when a man compliments her, she doesn't downplay it or brush it off. She receives it with grace. She says thank you, not because she needs the validation, but because she honors the moment. She allows herself to be seen. Men crave that, a woman who lets them give, who doesn't block every emotional gesture with a wall of I'm fine or I don't need anyone, because there's a difference between independence and defensiveness. Independence says I'm okay on my own, but I'm open to connection. Defensiveness says I've been hurt and I won't let you close. The woman who makes men lose their minds knows that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's strength, because it takes courage to be open, to be real, to say this is me and I'm not going to water it down to make you stay. That kind of truth creates trust, and trust is the foundation of obsession, not the toxic kind of obsession that comes from playing hot and cold, but the kind that comes from depth, from knowing there's more to discover, from feeling safe and challenged at the same time. Men want a woman who challenges them, not through criticism but through standard. She doesn't need to say, be better. Her life requires it. Her presence demands a man to rise simply because she doesn't entertain anything less than mutual respect, effort, and emotional maturity. And she does it without needing to declare it. Her energy says it all. She's playful, but not performative. She can flirt, joke, and tease, but always with the kind of self-respect that lets you know it's a bonus, not a bid for attention. Her joy isn't a mask. It's real. It's alive. And it makes a man want to be part of it, not because he feels needed, but because he feels invited. She creates space. Space for conversation, space for growth, space for real connection. And in that space, a man feels something rare. He feels inspired. Not by pressure, not by manipulation, but by presence. She makes him want to show up better, think deeper, care more, not because she demands it, but because she embodies it. That kind of energy is unforgettable, because in a world full of filters, fronts, and followers, she's real. And real is rare. A woman who knows herself, who nurtures her mind, feeds her curiosity, protects her peace. That woman doesn't just attract men. She affects them. She gets into their head, into their heart, into the part she of them that they don't let most people see. And when she connects there, everything changes. Not because she tried to make him fall, but because she gave him something real to fall into. He didn't fall because she strategized. He fell because she showed up as someone who didn't need to win him. She was already winning at life. That kind of energy is magnetic. It's the energy of someone who's living fully with or without the romantic storyline. A woman who isn't stuck in waiting mode, pausing her joy, her plans, or her glow for some man to finally catch up. She's not living in a holding pattern. She's moving. And he either meets her at her pace or she keeps going. That's what makes her unforgettable. She's not performing femininity to be liked. She embodies it in her own way. Sometimes soft, sometimes fierce, sometimes nurturing, sometimes bold. She doesn't contort herself into someone else's expectations. She doesn't dilute her power to soothe someone's insecurities. She knows she can be both light and fire, and she never apologizes for the duality. That's what stirs something ancient in a man, the sense that she's whole, that she doesn't need fixing, and she's not looking to fix anyone else either. She doesn't romanticize potential. She recognizes it, sure, but she's fallen in love with reality because she's matured past the phase of falling for the idea of someone. She's interested in action, not promise, in alignment, not attraction alone. She doesn't chase butterflies. She builds gardens where butterflies naturally land, and she'll wait for the one who values the ground she's cultivated. Men feel this. On a subconscious level, they pick up on the woman who holds herself to a higher standard, not because she's rigid, but because she respects herself. Her time is precious, her energy is sacred, and she doesn't give either away in the name of attention, validation, or fear of being alone. She's not afraid of alone. In fact, she's mastered it. She knows that solitude isn't loneliness, it's clarity. It's when she recharges, regroups, and reconnects with herself. And when a woman is deeply connected to herself, she becomes a force. That inner connection translates outward in how she walks, speaks, listens, and loves. Men notice, not because she's louder, but because her energy is cleaner, calmer, more anchored. And here's the twist. She's not always the one men immediately pursue. Sometimes she's the one who intimidates them, not by being aggressive, but by being real. Her authenticity is like a mirror. It reflects back who someone really is, and not every man is ready to see that. But the ones who are, they fall hard, because they realize she's not like the others. She's not on autopilot. She's not playing out some script. She's intentional, present, awake. Her eyes aren't just looking at you, they're looking into you. And when she sees something beautiful, she says it. When she sees something broken, she doesn't try to fix it. She just honors it with compassion, with grace. and she lets you decide what you want to do with your own healing. That kind of woman makes men crave growth, not out of shame, but from inspiration, because her presence makes you want to be better, to rise, to reach deeper into yourself, not to impress her, but to match her, because something about her tells you this is a rare chance to be seen, not for who you pretend to be, but for who you really are. She's not interested in masks. She's not seduced by cool. She's turned on by real. The kind of real that stumbles sometimes, admits fear, owns flaws, and keeps showing up anyway. The kind of real that isn't perfect, but is honest. And when a man realizes he doesn't have to perform around her, that he can just be, he relaxes, he drops the act. And in that moment, a bond is born, not from fantasy, but from truth. And here's another reason men go crazy for women like this. They know she doesn't need them, but she's still open to them. That's rare. Most people fall on one side of the fence. Either they're too needy, trying to force love and clinging to every scrap of affection, or they're too guarded, having been burned, now convinced they're better off alone. But this woman, she's walked through fire, she's had her heart broken, she's seen betrayal, disappointment, rejection, and still she chose to stay open, to love anyway, to trust herself enough to know that even if someone lets her down, she won't. That level of resilience is stunning. It makes her dangerous in the best possible way because she knows she'll survive heartbreak. So she doesn't operate from fear. She loves fully, not foolishly, but without apology. She doesn't hold back out of pride. She says how she feels, not to get a reaction, but to stay in integrity with herself. And when she says, "I care about you," you believe her. Because there's no manipulation behind it, just truth. That truth is what sets her apart. She's not obsessed with being mysterious. She's obsessed with being clear. She doesn't hide her standards to be liked. She doesn't pretend to be low maintenance to avoid scaring someone off. She's not afraid of being too much because the right man will never be intimidated by her fullness. He'll rise to meet it. And until that man shows up, she's not shrinking. And here's the secret she knows. She's not for everyone. She's okay with that because when you are for everyone, you lose yourself in the process. She doesn't need mass approval. She needs truth, connection, and mutual alignment. That's it. And that clarity saves her years of wasted time because she's not chasing chemistry. She's aligning with compatibility. That's a whole different game. And the men who feel this, they notice how easy it is to be with her, not because she's simple, but because she's clear. She doesn't confuse. She doesn't send mixed signals. She doesn't punish you for past mistakes other men made. She starts fresh with every soul, but the moment you show her you're not ready, she doesn't lash out. She just steps back. That detachment, calm, graceful, unbothered, is intoxicating because it shows a man that she's not stuck in the cycle of trying to make someone love her. She's not rehearsing her worth every time things don't work out. She's not internalizing rejection as a sign that she's lacking something. She knows rejection is simply redirection and that the right man will feel like alignment, not resistance. That's the woman men remember years later. The one who didn't fight for a place in their life, but instead made them want to create a space for her. The one who didn't twist herself into who they wanted, but stood tall as who she was. The one who let them go when they weren't ready and still wished them well. And when a man is finally ready to love on a deeper level, she's the blueprint he returns to in his mind. The one who showed him what real felt like. The one who gave him a glimpse of the life he could have had if he'd met her in the right season. That's not just attraction. That's impact. That's emotional legacy. And it's all because she did this. She became the woman who lives fully, gives freely, and walks away gracefully when the energy doesn't match. No games, no drama, just truth. She became the woman who lives fully, gives freely, and walks away gracefully when the energy doesn't match. No games, no drama, just truth. And what that truth does, it creates a ripple effect. Because once a man experiences a woman like that, every shallow interaction afterward feels hollow. He realizes he's tasted something real, something nourishing, something that didn't just stroke his ego but spoke to his soul. He might try to go back to the casual, the easy, the temporary, but none of it hits the same, because he knows now real connection doesn't scream for attention. Tea settles into you. It hums instead of roars. It feels like peace, not performance. And that peace, that's what a powerful woman brings. It's not just her presence that turns heads. It's the absence of chaos in her energy. She's done the work. She's looked at her wounds, held them, healed them, and didn't wait for someone else to do it for her. So she doesn't bleed all over people who didn't cut her. She doesn't carry the weight of her past into new love like a suitcase full of mistrust. She travels light because she knows how heavy life gets when you don't unpack. And that emotional maturity, that changes the game, because it means she doesn't expect perfection. She doesn't expect mind reading. She doesn't expect someone to save her from her shadows. She just expects honesty, consistency, accountability. She knows love isn't always fireworks. Sometimes it's effort, showing up, being present when it's inconvenient, and choosing someone even when it's hard. Men go crazy for women like that, not because they're flawless, but because they're real. And real is a rare, quiet power. It doesn't demand, it doesn't beg, it just is. She doesn't sit by the phone wondering why he hasn't called. She doesn't spiral into narratives about her worth if someone pulls away. She observes behavior, she listens to her intuition, and she trusts that if something is meant for her, it won't require chasing, begging, or convincing. There's nothing more powerful than a woman who's not afraid to lose someone if it means keeping herself. That kind of self-respect makes men take a second look, because the world is full of people who bend until they break for love. But she won't. She might bend with grace, with flexibility, with empathy, but she has a breaking point. And it's not loud or dramatic, it's quiet, it's decisive, it's a boundary that doesn't scream, it ends. And here's where it gets even deeper. That kind of woman doesn't just hold boundaries with others, she holds them with herself. She doesn't sabotage good love because of fear. She doesn't lash out because of old wounds. She's aware of her patterns. She takes responsibility for her side of the street. She's not playing games because she doesn't need to. She's not trying to appear mysterious. She is interesting because she's lived, because she's paid attention, because she's grown. Men crave that kind of depth more than they admit. They want more than someone who looks good beside them. They want someone who makes them feel something real, someone who sees through them but loves them anyway, someone who can hold tension, have hard conversations, and still bring laughter and light to the room. That combination of strength and softness, that's the alchemy. And you know what really makes men crazy for her? She doesn't just have love to give, she has a life. Her life is rich, her friendships are deep, her goals matter. Her passions aren't side projects, they're sacred. She has things to wake up for that have nothing to do with a relationship. So when she invites someone into her world, it's not out of lack, it's out of abundance. That's a completely different experience, being chosen by someone who doesn't need you to complete them, but wants to build with you because their life is already full and still they see space for you in it. That's a compliment that hits on a soul level. Men sense this when they're with her, that she's not playing the pick-me game. She's not adjusting her vibe to fit someone else's mold. She's not trying to outperform other women. She's not in competition. She knows there's no scarcity in real connection. What's meant for her will feel right. It won't feel like a contest. And if someone overlooks her, she lets them. Not because she doesn't care, but because she does about herself first and foremost. This woman is rooted in her values, in her truth, in her purpose. And because she's rooted, and she doesn't get blown around by every little storm, she doesn't crumble under silence or ghosting, she doesn't need closure to close a chapter because she writes her own endings. And that sovereignty, that emotional self-leadership, that's what separates her from the crowd. Men may not always understand it immediately, but they feel it. They feel it in the way she carries herself, in how she doesn't try to prove her worthiness, it's already assumed. In how she doesn't force chemistry, it's either there or it's not. In how she can be fully present with you and yet still centered in herself. That balance is electrifying. She's not consumed by love, but she thrives in it when it's real. She gives men something rare, the safety to be themselves and the challenge to grow beyond who they've always been. Because she loves with clarity, not confusion, with openness, not attachment, with depth, not dependence. She listens not to respond, but to understand. She speaks with intention. Her "I miss you" means something. Her "I love you" isn't just words. It's backed by presence, effort, action. And she expects the same in return, not because she's demanding, but because she knows the level of love she brings deserves nothing less. Her time is her currency. Her energy is her gift. And she spends both wisely. She doesn't chase love. She attracts it by being deeply aligned with who she is and what she values. She knows that when you are the thing you're looking for, the rest finds you. And yes, men go crazy for that. Because it's not just about how she looks in a dress or how she laughs at their jokes. It's about how she makes them feel safe, seen, challenged, expanded, inspired. It's about how she calls them into something, not drags them through it. How she mirrors their greatness back to them, but only if they're ready to own it. She doesn't hold on to men with fee. She holds them with choice. She says, "I want you here, but I don't need you here. And if you ever decide to go, I'll still be whole." That wholeness is what makes her magnetic. Not the chase, not the performance, but the presence. She's the woman who doesn't try to be the best woman a man's ever had. She just shows up as the truest version of herself. And if he has the eyes to see her, the hands to hold her with care, and the courage to stand beside her without shrinking, then he gets to experience the kind of love that elevates him. And once he does, he'll never want to go back to anything less. He'll never want to go back to anything less. Because after her, every surface level interaction feels like trying to quench a thirst with dust. Every shallow conversation echoes with the absence of her presence. Every game, every delayed text, every emotionally unavailable dance just feels tired. And he knows what it felt like to stand in front of a woman who didn't need to raise her voice to be heard, who didn't need to overgive to be worthy, who didn't shrink herself to be chosen. She just was, and that was enough. What he felt was certainty, not because she told him 1,000 times what she wanted or how valuable she was, but because every fiber of her being communicated it effortlessly. The way she moved through the world, the way she protected her peace, the way she didn't tolerate emotional breadcrumbs. That energy told the truth louder than any speech ever could. And here's the thing most people miss. It wasn't about being unattainable. She wasn't playing hard to get. She was hard to forget. There's a difference. One is a strategy. The other is a result of living in alignment with your highest self. She's unforgettable because her love wasn't ordinary. It wasn't rushed, performative, or shallow. It was intentional. It was present. She wasn't trying to impress you with grand gestures to win your approval. Her energy said, "This is how I love, with care, with honesty, with depth. I won't give less than that, and I won't accept less than that either." That kind of love rewires a man. It redefines his standards, not just for relationships, but for himself. Because being loved by someone who has done their work makes you want to rise, not to earn their love, but to deserve the space they created for you, and not out of pressure, but out of reverence, because he knows what it cost her to become that woman. He knows she didn't arrive there by accident. She became that way by choosing herself over and over again. She became that way by sitting with her own pain instead of distracting from it, by grieving what didn't work without numbing or running, by getting honest about her own patterns, by loving herself through loneliness, by saying no to what didn't feel aligned, even when it was easier to say yes, by walking away not to punish, but to protect her inner world. And now she wears that healing like quiet armor. It's not heavy, it doesn't make her hard, but it makes her clear. And men feel that clarity. They feel it in her boundaries, in her softness that doesn't come from naivety, but from choice. She's soft because she's strong enough to be, because she trusts herself enough to stay open without collapsing. And when she chooses a man, she doesn't hand over her identity. She doesn't morph into whatever version she thinks he wants. She brings her full self to the table, desires, dreams, imperfections, and all. She invites him into her realness. And she expects the same. There's no room for masks, no space for ego-led performances, only truth, only growth, only real intimacy. Because she's not afraid of intimacy. Not the physical kind, that's easy. She's unafraid of the emotional kind, the kind that requires honesty, vulnerability, stillness, the kind that asks you to sit in discomfort without fleeing. The kind that asks, what are you really feeling? And then holds the answer without judgment. That level of presence is rare. Most people run from it. But she leans in. She leans into the hard conversations. She leans into the awkward silences. She leans into the moments where most people retreat because she knows those are the doorways to depth. And she's not here for surface level anything, not anymore, not after everything she's survived, not after everything she's learned about herself. So when a man steps into her space, she sees him, not just his status, not just his potential, not just the curated version he offers the world. She sees him. The little boy inside, the fear behind the swagger, the softness behind the strength. And if he's ready to be seen, truly seen, that moment will undo him in the best way possible, because being fully seen is terrifying, but it's also the most profound relief. And she offers that kind of safety, not because she's trying to be a savior, but because she's done the work to see herself first. Her gaze doesn't pierce to control, it invites. It says, I'm not here to fix you, I'm here to know you, but only if you're ready to be known. That's a spiritual kind of connection. That's what makes a man feel. Not just think, not just react, but feel. And once he's felt something that real, he can't go back to shallow. He won't be able to lie to himself and pretend he's content with the surface anymore. Because now he knows what depth feels like. And here's the real twist. She's not doing any of this for him. She doesn't show up like this to make anyone stay. She doesn't bring her soul to the table just to be validated. This is who she is, whether someone shows up or not. She's not living to be desired. She's living to be whole. And it's that wholeness that makes her the most desirable woman in the room. Not because she demands attention, but because she doesn't. She is the woman who could have anyone and chooses carefully. She is the woman who will give you her all, but only if you prove you worthy of it. Not through perfection, not through money, not through performance, through presence, through emotional availability, through consistency. She's not asking you to be everything, just to be real, to be responsible with her heart, to be conscious of her time, to be someone who builds with her, not just enjoys her. And that request, that bar, that's what separates boys from men. That's what forces growth. That's what calls forward the kind of love that changes lives, not just for a moment, but for a lifetime. And maybe not every man is ready for that. Maybe not every man can hold that kind of love, but she's okay with that because she's not here to convince anyone of her worth. She's not here to negotiate the value of her heart. She knows what she brings. She knows what she deserves, and she knows the rare man who's ready will recognize her not as a prize to win, but as a partner to rise with. Until then, she keeps living, keeps creating, keeps expanding, not as a placeholder until love arrives, but because this is the life she's built with or without it. And that is the thing. That is why men go crazy for women who do this. Because she doesn't just offer love, she offers liberation.